If you're thinking about starting a law firm, you should do it. But also, let me help to save you some headaches because there are so many things that I wish I knew before taking the leap. Because I made mistakes. I learned a lot. But honestly, I wouldn't change it. But I definitely would have done things a little bit differently. So let's talk about what I wish somebody would have told me before I went out on my own, opened my own solo law firm. Now, let me give you a little bit of a backstory here. So, when I started my law firm, which is about 10 years ago now, I thought I needed to have everything figured out. And it had to be perfect, the perfect logo, the best software, maybe even looking at hiring someone. But let me tell you, I had none of those things. Nothing was perfect, nothing was figured out, and it all worked out just fine. I started with my laptop, I had a dream, and a whole lot of Google searches. And 10 years ago, what you have available to you now is far superior than what I had back then, even just 10 years ago. And a lot of things I had to learn the hard way. And one of my goals on this channel is to help you not have to learn the hard ways. Now, it's going to be hard when you have your own law firm for sure. But I'm trying to save you some headaches and just give you some, advice as someone who's been there, done that as a law firm owner. So I think the first lesson we should get into is this thought or notion that you have to have it all together and that you have to have it all perfectly. I've told you before that before I went out on my own almost 10 years ago now, I sat and thought about going out on my own for 2 or 3 years, just thinking about it, making plans for it, but not actually taking action because I didn't think I was ready. And I spent and wasted so much time waiting to feel ready. But you know what? You're never going to feel 100% ready to open your law firm. At least most of you aren't. Maybe a few of you will, but most of you will not. But it's important to understand that being ready, that's a decision that you make. It's not a feeling that you have. If you're waiting for that feeling, you're going to keep putting off going out on your own. You have to make the decision that you are ready and you're going to move forward with opening your law firm. And let's be honest, clients don't care about a perfect logo. They care if you answer their call, if you respond to their emails, if you get the work done, if you help solve their legal problems. That's what they want, not perfection. So I tell my law firm owners, when you're doing something new or for the first time, we're not going for an A plus here. You maybe got all A's in school. That's great. When we're running the business, we don't need all A's. We don't need 100%. A good solid B. Your website, a B. Your logo, a B. Like, we don't need A plus perfection, or else you're never going to actually get it done and take the action that you need to take. We don't want this notion of perfection delaying your progress. All right, tip number 2. You are a business owner first and a lawyer second. And that's kind of hard to wrap your head around, but you can be the best lawyer. If you suck at running a business, your law firm is going to flop, it's not going to be profitable, or you're going to have really slow growth. And this one took me a while to learn and to figure out because I never took one business class, not in college, not in law school. I was a history major in college, so I knew nothing about running a business. And so when I went out on my own, I thought it was just going to be me practicing law. But it's not. And I've shared with you so many times that practicing law is kind of the smallest part of my day. Even now, it's the smallest part of my day. And so when I first went out on my own, when you first go out on your own, you're doing all the things, right? You are the marketing team, you're the finance department, you are HR, you are your own janitor, right? You're doing everything. You are a one-stop shop until you have the revenue to bring someone else on board. But this took me a while to figure out and to make sure that I was changing my mindset and how I approached being a solo law firm owner and understanding and actually putting into practice that being a lawyer was not number one. Being a business owner was number one. I had to learn how to run a business. And once I started to treat my law firm like the business that it was like light bulb. Like, that's when things changed. That's when I started to make real progress in my law firm. And so when you first start out, even if you haven't gone out on your own yet, how can you build a strong foundation for your law firm? Business plan, figuring out systems, figuring out processes, right? Not going into law firm ownership blindly. If you don't have a business plan, I have a free one for you below. So make sure you get that. There's no cost for it. It's a fill in the blank template of all the things that you need to think about when going out on your own. Okay, so we are on tip number 3. We're on number 3. You need to have systems if you want to maintain your sanity as a law firm owner. And if you're anything like me, when I went out on my own, I just had everything in my head. I knew how I wanted it done, so I didn't need to spend time documenting all my process and all my systems. Wrong, 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 wrong. So I did have a few kind of processes for some things, but I kind of went about it backwards and developed most of my systems and processes once I had someone hired and onboarded. But that isn't the most efficient approach to that. You should be documenting how you want things done, how you do things as you do them, right? So, everything to how you want a file opened, your kind of draft communication with clients, your draft pleadings, how to take notes, how you track deadlines, how you do onboarding, like all the different steps down to the how do you want your phones answered when someone calls your office, right? All those things should be documented. And once I started to really build those systems out for my law firm, having that checklist for intake and having, a client review schedule. And it really helped to keep the firm organized, keep my firm moving forward, keep my clients' files moving forward, and to help me to not be the bottleneck in my own law firm, and to also help whoever I've hired, because I've had a number of assistants and paralegals over this past decade, right, to help bring them on board and help them be self-sufficient, right? If they don't know how to do something, they would much rather have a resource, a documented system or process on how to do it than to have to keep asking me over and over. They don't want to do that, right? And you don't want them doing that either, right? And so having that documented for them, for how you do things, the way you do them, is going to be so helpful for you in your law firm. I cannot stress enough how important it is. Again, if it's just you, it's all in your head, you know how you want it done, but it's not always going to be just you. You are going to need some help. So let's prepare for that now. Okay, let's get into lesson number 4. You don't have to be alone just because you're a solo. Being a solo doesn't mean that you have to be isolated. I think a lot of people, especially lawyers, think like, oh, if I ask for help, then people will know that I don't know what I'm doing. But that's not what that means, right? You need to find your community of people, who your people are, right? If you have a spouse and family, that's great, but they're only going to understand so much, right? And so having a network of other law firm owners or a mentor or a coach and having people who get it really makes a huge difference, especially when the days get hard. Because sometimes you need someone who can just tell you like, yeah, that's normal. Yeah, that's happened to me too. Yeah, I've dealt with that. When you have that client that's just, you're ripping your hair out over this client or whatever the issue is, being able to call up someone and just talk through it with them, having someone who understands, who's been there and can normalize all the things that you're feeling has saved me so many times. And in addition to having those colleagues who, are also law firm owners and who understand, make sure you have some people in your circle who are a few steps ahead of you. Not for any competition, not for that reason, but to help push you to make sure you're continuing to level up and step up your game as a law firm owner. So seeing what other people are doing, how to do things a little bit differently, how to think outside the box, some new approaches to resolve the issues you're having. Sometimes when you're in the firm and you're in the thick of it and you're in the thick of running the business and being the lawyer and doing all the things, sometimes it's nice to have somebody to help you take a step back and look at it from a different point of view. So make sure you have your people around you. And now, again, with your listservs and your Zooms. And there's so many ways for you to connect with people that are even outside of your proximity in your city or town, wherever you're practicing, so even remotely. But having some people in person is a good help as well. Next lesson, you want to make sure you understand the cash flow in your law firm. You need to know what it costs to operate your firm and what revenue you need coming in the door to pay all the overhead, including yourself. Because here's the truth, your law degree does not teach you how to manage money. So you need to be tracking your numbers from the very beginning. Make sure you set aside money for taxes. Make sure you're paying yourself, even if it's a small amount to start, that's fine. A really good book for lawyers is Profit First. And they actually have a version of that for lawyers specifically. So make sure you look at getting that one. I don't follow it to a T. Like, I don't want to have 8 bank accounts. That's just not going to work for me. So I don't follow it exactly to a T, but it has some real solid advice on just like the money management and the financial foundation of your law firm and how to manage the money. And so if you don't have that knowledge and you need some help with it, that's a great book to get to be able to kind of get caught up on how to manage the money for your law firm and what to expect. All right, so those were 5 lessons. I think that's good for this video today, the 5 lessons. A few bonus ones if I were to give you any would be, one is don't worry about comparing your journey to other lawyers. And I think this is true beyond just law firm ownership, right? Just in general, and we see everyone's highlight reels online and on social media, and everything looks so perfect and easy for them. But you have no idea as to what's happening behind the scenes for other lawyers and their law firms and for people just outside of, law firm ownership. I think that's just a good tip to follow in life, right? That you never know what's really happening for people behind the story, behind what they show online. And so it's not fair on yourself for you to compare where you are to where they are. And especially if you're just starting out, you can't compare yourself on your day 1 to where I am as a solo in my year 10 of being a solo law firm owner. Now, I've been an attorney for 16 years at this point. The past almost 10 I've been on my own. Don't compare what you're doing to what I'm doing. That's not fair to yourself or to anybody else that you see who has a solo law firm. Like, that's not fair to yourself. That's not nice to yourself, right? You can look to others for inspiration and for goals and what you want to do or how you want to practice law. If you're like me and you want to have a more flexible schedule with your family and kids, those are all great things to aspire to, but just don't get into the negative mindset of like, oh, I can't do it the way he or she does it, so I'm just not doing a good job. I'm flopping. I'm failing at this. Like, no. Like, you're where you're supposed to be. Part of the process is figuring out the journey and navigating that for yourself and figuring out what that looks like. All right, enough on that. Also, I don't love a general practice for solos. I do think you should have, now you can have more than one practice area. I actually like 2 or 3 practice areas, especially if you have a practice area that's kind of more market driven or seasonal at all. So I like to have like one solid practice area that no matter what the market is doing is going to be consistent. And then if you have a passion practice area that can have highs and lows, that's fine. But we need something that's more steady to kind of keep the consistent revenue coming into our firms. And then also, I think another quick bonus lesson would be to make sure that you have boundaries for yourself. And a lot of people think of boundaries as, for other people. I need to give my clients a boundary. I need to give my employees a boundary. I need to give my kids a boundary when I'm working. But boundaries are for you. It's not for them. So when you set a boundary, you say, if so-and-so does X, I'm going to do Y. What are you going to do if somebody tries to cross your boundary? You have the responsibility of maintaining and managing and enforcing your own boundaries. You cannot put that obligation on somebody else. You create that for yourself. You are the enforcer of your own boundaries. Okay, we've gone on long enough. So I know starting a law firm can be scary. 100% was one of the scariest things I've ever done, was go out on my own and open my own law firm. But it's also, I think, one of the most freeing and fulfilling things that I've ever done for myself and in my career. And you don't have to have it all figured out. I don't have it all figured out. And it's been 10 years and I'm still learning things. I'm still, trying things and tweaking things and changing processes and trying things out. All you have to do, all you need to know, actually, is your next step. And you can figure out the rest as you go. You don't need to know the end result. You don't need to know the how you're going to hit your revenue goal by the end of the year. You just need to know what is the next step that I need to take in that direction. And you will figure it out step by step as you go. A lot of my law firm owners that I talk to will come to me and they're like, "Oh, Darcel, like I'm stuck on this and I can't figure this out," and whatever the issue is. But they usually actually know what they need to do. They know what the next step is. So part of my job in coaching them is to help bring that out of them, figure out what the goal is and what those next steps are. We don't need to know all 20 steps right now. Can we figure out step 1 and then step 2? And then step 3, on to step 20 to make that goal a reality for yourself. So let's wrap things up here. If you're thinking of going out on your own and starting your own solo law firm, I would love to hear in the comments below, like, what's holding you back? What's stopping you? What's in the way? What are the obstacles that you're seeing? So, and if this video helped, if it inspired you, I would love for you to stick around, subscribe. I would appreciate a like. That'd be very helpful for me in knowing kind of what you want to hear, what you want me to talk about. And if you want more tips on building a law firm that works for you and how you want to practice law, make sure you stick around. All right, I'll see you in the next one.